Good morning, church. This is the fifth Sunday of Lent, and our gospel reading today is from the 11th chapter of John. We start with verse 1. It is the fourth and final very long reading from John's gospel of dialogues with Jesus and others. It contains the seventh sign in the Gospel of John and the seventh I am saying. In your printed bulletins, if you've accessed them, you have this text in front of you from the New Revised Standard Translation. But once again, I'm going to read it from an alternate translation. It's good for you to look along and just see where it is different from the one you have in front of you. I am using the Message, which is a translation by Eugene Peterson. The Gospel of our Lord. A man was sick, Lazarus of Bethany, the town of Mary and her sister Martha. This was the same Mary who massaged the Lord's feet with aromatic oils and then wiped them down with her hair. It was her brother Lazarus who was sick. So the sisters sent word to Jesus, "Master, the one you love so much is sick." When Jesus got the message, he said, This sickness is not fatal. It will become an occasion to show God's glory by glorifying God's Son. Jesus loved Martha and her sister and Lazarus. But oddly, when he heard that Lazarus was sick, he stayed on where he was for 2 more days. After 2 days, he said to his disciples, "Let's go back to Judea." And they said, "Rabbi, you can't do that. The Jews are out to kill you, and you're going back?" Jesus replied, "Are there not 12 hours of daylight? Anyone who walks in daylight doesn't stumble because there's plenty of light from the sun. Walking at night, he might very well stumble because he can't see where he's going." He said these things and then he announced, "Our friend Lazarus has fallen asleep, and I'm going to wake him up." The disciples said, "Master, if he's gone asleep, he'll get a good rest and wake up feeling fine." Jesus was talking about death, while his disciples thought that he was talking about taking a nap. Then Jesus became explicit. Lazarus died. And I'm glad for your sakes that I wasn't there. You're about to be given new grounds for believing. Now, let's go to him. And that's when Thomas, the one called the twin, said to his companions, "Come along. We might as well die with him." When Jesus finally got there, he found Lazarus already 4 days dead. Bethany was near Jerusalem, only a couple of miles away, and many of the Jews were visiting Martha and Mary, sympathizing with them over their brother. Martha heard that Jesus was coming, and she went out to meet him. Mary remained in the house. Martha said, "Master, if you had been here, my brother wouldn't have died. Even now I know that whatever you ask, God will give it to you." Jesus said, "Your brother will be raised up." And Martha replied, "I know that he will be raised up in the resurrection at the end of time." "You don't have to wait for the end. I am, right now, resurrection and life. The one who believes in me, even though he or she dies, will live. And everyone who lives believing in me does not ultimately die at all. Do you believe this?" "Yes, Master. All along I have believed that you are the Messiah, the Son of God who comes into the world." After saying this, she went to her sister Mary, and she whispered in her ear, "The teacher is here. He is asking for you." The moment she heard that, she jumped up and ran out to him. Jesus had not yet entered the town, but was still at the place where Martha had met him. When her sympathizing Jewish friends saw Mary run off, they followed her, thinking she was on her way to the tomb to weep there. Mary came to where Jesus was waiting and fell at his feet, saying, "Master, if only you had been here, my brother would not have died." When Jesus saw her sobbing, and the Jews with her sobbing, a deep anger welled up within him. He said, "Where did you put him?" "Master, come and see," they said. And now Jesus wept. The Jews said, "Look how deeply he loved him." But others among them said, "Well, if he loved him so much, why didn't he do something to keep him from dying? After all, he opened the eyes of a blind man." Then the anger of Jesus welled again within him, and he arrived at the tomb. It was a simple cave in the hillside with a slab of stone laid against it. Jesus said, "Remove the stone." The sister of the dead man, Martha, said, "Master, by this time there's a stench. He has been dead 4 days." Jesus looked at her in the eye. "Did I not tell you that if you believed, you would see the glory of God?" And then to the others, "Go ahead, take away the stone." They removed the stone, and then Jesus raised his eyes to heaven and he prayed, "Father, I'm grateful that you have listened to me. I know that you always listen. But on account of this crowd standing here, I've spoken so that they might believe that you sent me." And then he shouted, "Lazarus, come out!" And he came out, a cadaver, wrapped head to toe and with a kerchief over his face. Jesus told them, "Unwrap him and let him loose." There was a turnaround for many of the Jews who were with Mary. They saw what Jesus did, and they believed in him. The Gospel of the Lord.